Without further ado, it's a Tuesday, it's Origin Eve, and the great man who's a big contributor to the program on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Matty Johns, come in spinner.
Hello, Joel, Tourist, Fletch. How are you, lads?
Going good, Matthew. Going good.
Outstanding.
Hey, Matty, we were just discussing earlier about young Brad Arthur's son, Matt. Matt
Yes,
Arthur.
yeah.
He's looking like he's making his debut for the... Would you... We're saying it'd be great if he hands out the jumper. We go in the dressing room. I doubt whether it will go ahead, but what's your thoughts on it? If it was you, would you do it?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I'd do it. Because I think in time, Fletch, all the other stuff will just subside. You know, feelings that you might have been dudded and any bitterness you might feel, that'll just subside at the end of the day. You know, you're walking down the hallway and there's the picture on the wall of you presenting to the young bloke. I absolutely think that, I'd be there and done it. He's a good young player, Matt. Watching him,
good player.
It's not hard to see what his influence is, the way he holds himself and the way he moves to a ruck late and everything. He's Harry Grant to a T. So he's obviously modelled his football on Harry.
I'll tell you what, watching the young fullback, Chevy Stewart, who played decently at first grade, still young, you do learn how big a jump it still is. And to think that the half or 5'8" could have been Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah.
You know, he could have played in that game. And where he's at in his career. Matty, I was saying to Fletch before about how comfortable he's getting. So his first 7-odd games, he'd run for about 90 metres, which is still decent for a half. And now he's up to about 160 metres a game. So he is just... Robbie Mears, when he was coaching him in the juniors like a couple of years ago, you know, he's a back row. He was playing second row.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that look. He's got that, the way he holds himself. He holds himself like a ball-playing back rower. He reminds me a lot of Wade Graham when he was a young bloke. And Joel, what was vital for Lockie last week was the week off, the week before.
Yeah.
It just let him, he freshened right up. You can see the way he moved. He was right up on his toes. He was able to clear his head. But just that, for young halves or young players in general, to be able to get a week off makes a massive difference in your first season.
And Brian, the fact that, you know, you can imagine the pressure, external noise, and the fact that he came out and said, no, I'm now committed to stay here, weight off the shoulders.
Yeah. I think that was he was getting bad advice.
Yeah.
Whether it was manager or whether it was
Fletch.
someone else, you can just tell. It seems like it.
And you know, Fletch, and full time when you asked him the question, geez, mate, he handled himself well.
Absolutely, that's what I was saying. He's got a bit of spunk about him that we like, and he's single.
Yeah, he's got a bit of scally.
Yeah, I heard he's a bit of a DMer. That's what I'm hearing. He likes just.
Oh, really?
That's what I'm hearing.
Love it. Secret dirtbag.
Well, I mean,
we
we all got that. I tell you what, we didn't really,
is it the eyes, Brian? Do you have to do the eyes?
That's what Adam Doueihi said, but Adam Doueihi's spoken for.
Yeah.
Wasn't it great to see Adam Doueihi come back?
Oh,
like
what
that?
a story!
He's a
good.
terrific young man. Good on him.
Yeah, he's been now. As he starts to get older, boys, and I think he starts to work out his game a lot more and where he should play, and also, mate, thickening up a little bit. I think he'll find his position. He's been a young bloke who's bumped around so many different positions. I saw him play in lower grades quite a bit at Souths, and they had him at fullback. They had him at 6. They had a little stint at 13. He was playing in the centres, but he's always been a bloke who's been stuck between positions. But I reckon, because ideally, if he was in my side, I'd be looking at him saying, righto, just the way he holds himself and the way he plays, you're going, righto, you're that sort of stereotypical 13, who's a little bit different to the rest of the side, but he's not as thick in the hips and everything as blokes like, Victor and Cheese and so on and so forth, Maxi Plath. So it'd be interesting to see where he settles. I think at the end of the day, I do see him as, I think 13 would really suit him.
We asked him last week, and he said, look, I like the halves, but he was saying it's only because I think I've got a little bit more experience at this club. But then he said, I do like centre.
Really?
Yeah, so, I mean, now centres, as we know, the game is sort of changing a little bit. The centres can command big money.
It's just hard, Fletch. Like, with a club like the Tigers, they need... it's like we were talking about with Jack White at the start of the year, when they wanted to pick him in the centres, and you're going, for what South needed out of Jack Whiten, he should never have been in the centres.
No.
At another club, like at a club like, like let's say if you went to the Broncos, you say, yeah, sure, in the centres. But for what South needed from Jack, he wasn't a centre, and likewise, with Adam, what they need from Adam, how vital he is to that side. You just can't lock him in a 10-metre corridor.
Matthew, I got a saying that I coined probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, horses for courses.
Yeah.
Which basically, do you want to know
what does it mean, Brian?
Well,
how'd you come up with this?
I don't know whether.
Where's
this come from?
It's just sometimes I'm just like sitting on trains. I like getting on the loser cruiser going to Gosford and just looking around, just having it, and that's when it sort of comes to me. You know, it's pretty good. But Matthew, I want to ask you this: I'm going to Japan at the end of the year with the family, and we had I threw it out to the listeners, and they all said you got to go to a sumo wrestling. And I know you've been to Japan. Did you partake in any of that?
Did not go to, when we went over there. It wasn't the sumo season.
Oh, is there a season?
There is a sumo season, so we didn't get to go and see it. Oh, but Fletch, I tell you, there's things that I know that you're into, which will be a lot more fun than sumo.
Okay.
A couple of things is an area called Golden Guy, which it's in Shinjuku. When you go along there, it's the most amazing bar hopping place I've ever been to. I reckon there'd be 1,000 micro bars, and it's insane. It's so much fun. And the big one, mate, which I tell you what, the family will love, is Robot Restaurant.
Yes.
Robot Restaurant is insane.
Yeah.
It's very, very Tokyo. It's stereotypical Tokyo.
Did you go to Hiroshima?
Yes.
Or Hiroshima?
Hiroshima, beautiful city. Yep. Eerie when you go there, but it is a really, really beautiful city. You go to the museum there, it's definitely heartbreaking, but it's a beautiful city.
I'll tell you what, Matty, you are very worldly when it comes to the travel and all those sorts of things. If you had to say to people who have never left our shores, you've got to go to 3 places, 3 countries, where would you send? Like, I've not been to Japan, and I'm desperate to go there in the next 12 months or so. Where would you send our loyal audience if they've never left Australia?
Well, I reckon if they've never left Australia, it's hard sometimes to say, to go to a country like a Bosnia and that, because it's just so radically different. I think you look at easy travel. One is you pick a place in the States, which you go New York City, maybe shoot across to LA for a stint. Then I reckon, as far as Europe's concerned, England's just so vast and so different. Start in London, work your way up to Scotland, and maybe shoot over to Ireland there. But and the other one is Tokyo. Yeah, I think Japan. Japan's just Japan. Those 3 places are different, but Tokyo in particular is just so radically different to any other place on earth.
I'm pumped for it. I need to do it.
I haven't heard a bad word. So TikTok.
Good people too.
Matthew, you wouldn't have, TikTok wasn't
people
around when you're on there, but my girls and Brett are on the TikTok. They say you got to go to 7-Eleven for everything. Anything in 7-Eleven.
Yep.
There's an egg sandwich you get, but then there's also fried chicken from another convenience store that you combine the two. The egg sandwich is off its head anyway. But when you add this fried chicken, next level. I love the Japanese food.
Well, Fletch, if you get on, my clue for people who are going to go to Japan, jump on Anthony Bourdain. Type in Anthony Bourdain, Tokyo.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And Bourdain went to Tokyo, and it covers everything about Tokyo, the bazaar, just everything. And the big thing was the 7-Elevens. Every single day, he would get up in the morning, and he would just go straight to the 7-Eleven and have the egg sandwich. Oh. For him, he said he went to a few places. It shows that he went to a few places and they'd sold out, and he was literally having panic attacks. That they say it's so good. But the areas there, like Fletch, every single precinct Tokyo is the most populous city in Asia, and every single area you go to, Shinjuku, Shibuya, Ginza, so on and so forth, just Roppongi, which is the sort of Yakuza area. Every single area is like its own Manhattan. It's it's the history of it and everything. Probably when you read the history of it, it tells you why it's so different to every other country on earth.
Boys, do yourself a favour. Speaking about egg sandwiches, mate, and they're not a sponsor of the program. And I've tried out 2 different Woolworths.
Yeah.
Mate, the stock standard egg and lettuce sandwich they sell, It's the greatest egg sandwich I've had
Can't get around
in Australia.
Can't get around
Have you tried it?
I just can't get around egg on a sandwich.
Mate, it is the best egg sandwich I've ever had. It's in Woolworths right now, and I don't know who the contract is, but it is 11 out of 10.
Okay.
So some of the servos, some of the food at servos now, like you get the peri-peri chicken wrap, the Cajun chicken wrap with the coleslaw. Mate, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Remember, back in the day, the service station sandwiches and wraps and the hot chicken rolls. It was just like
Rubber.
It was just like eating a turd.
Rancid.
It was, which we all do occasionally.
Hey,
we all
Matthew,
do it occasionally.
Matthew, got a text here
particularly
from
with
Cam.
cooks.
He wants to bring it back a little bit. He says, Matthew, should the Roosters go after Tyran Wishart? Thoughts?
Yeah, Fletch, just trying to think who they got, where they're placed as far as halves concerned.
Next year, Kiri's gone.
Right. Look, Fletch, don't know if it's exactly what they need. Like, because Tyran isn't he's not. I don't see him as a long-term half.
No.
Like he's an ideal 14. I think as his career goes on, a little bit like we're talking before about Doueihi, is a 13. He can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, play a bit of 9. But as far as playing in the halves for the Roosters, no, I don't think so. I don't see him as a long-term 6 or 7. I think he's, as I said before, I think his position going forward will be 13.
All right, well, there you go, Cam. Get stuffed, basically. He just said beat it. All right, Matthew, well, it's Origin. Let's get into it. Let's
What do you see?
Yeah, what are we thinking?
13 plus.
Oh, hang on, bullish.com.
I've gone heavy bullish. Originally, I was going by 6, and I just sat there and I thought, do you know what? I asked Cronk the other day, Cooper Cronk. I said, right, how many series did you play in? I think he said 9, 8 or 9. He said, I said, righto, how many clean sweeps were you a part of? And he went, 1.
Yeah, wow.
It just shows you what a vital ingredient is at this level, desperation.
Yep.
Just going in with that little bit of a safety net, Queensland, and we have to win, historically has proven the difference in State of Origin history.
Imagine that. Like, say we do win emphatically, and then it's all rose to Suncorp. That is massive.
Massive.
Just on that, what Matty said around Cronk. Did you boys catch the speech by now Dr. Roger Federer? Did you see his speech?
No, I didn't.
No, so it's worth Googling. It's one of the all-time speeches. He talks to him qualifying from university or finishing. And one of the things he said, do you know that I won 80-odd% of my games? But he said, do you know that I only won 54% of my points? So it's that grafting away. So Cronk won all those series.
Oh, I thought he was going to mention Cooper Cronk in his speech.
No.
Every sinew.
Yeah, every sinew. But it's a very humbling speech for a bloke who's done so much. But it's pretty interesting to say he'd won 80% of his matches, but just 54% of his points.
Well, I watched the Bellyache with Face to Face.
Yes.
And he was talking about Cooper, and he challenged Cooper. Now, when you think about it now, it's hard to believe. But Bellyache came and goes, yeah, he wasn't a great trainer.
Really?
He said when we first got him, he was a fullback, and we didn't know sort of what position to put him in. And he said, I basically put it on him in the off-season, and he trained that hard on his passing game and his kicking. He said he was telling him to come off the field because he was just doing too much. It doesn't strike me as a
9 grand finals.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as a bloke who would ever need a bit of a rev up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fletch, he was a bloke, like, again, the theme of this seems to be blokes who are caught in between positions. But that was Cooper. He was they didn't know whether he was a 9, whether he was a lightweight 13, whether he was a centre. They really had no idea what he was. And I remember originally watching him at training sessions and going, right, like you should. With young halves, I throw out hats and you do a certain drill which tells you what sort of half they are. It gives you a really clear indication when you do this drill on how athletic they are, what their vision's like, how are they tactically and all. And originally with Cooper, I said to Bellyache, he's Tuvs. He's Jeff Tuvey.
Wow.
He's thick set, he's short, he's thick through the waist, he's tough. He's got good footwork and he's got good acceleration, and he'll drive the big guys mad right through the middle. That was his game. But what happened is, bit by bit, year by year, he just got better and better, worked on his finesse, worked on his ball playing, worked on his kicking. I've never seen someone so methodical. He was not a natural footballer like Cameron Smith or Billy Slater and any of those guys. He just did it through hard work, and it took a long time. But as you said, like, I think the crown and glory for Cooper. And it would have been, I reckon it would have been really hard being Cooper Cronk for a long time, because he's a bloke who beats himself up and he's a perfectionist. But his crown and glory for all the hard work was that he won his last 3 years. He won 3 comps in a row.
That's it.
Yeah.
He went back to back to back, and we forget that sometimes.
Yeah. So of his first 3, he was unsure about things. Won one of his first 3. His second 3 wins 2 of his next 3. 3 from 3, as Matty said.
Good stats. Great stats.
I tell you, the immeasurable is the mindset, right? So we've just got a Fox League up here, and like, I would never forget Kalen Ponga's first ever Origin and his first ever NRL game, and he was smiling like a Cheshire cat, and you just knew this kid knew he was supposed to be there. Just watching highlights of Galvin, Matty, I don't think I've ever seen a kid who's so happy to be out there. He is smiling the whole time, which means he just knows he's supposed to be there, doesn't he?
Definitely, Joel. I think what we're starting to see, and I got my fingers crossed here, and you tipped me into a bloke last week in the New South Wales 19s, young Wood. Jeez, my goodness, what a player he's going to be.
Is he the Canterbury kid?
Yeah.
He's the Canterbury kid.
Playing up at age.
Fletch. Playing up, mate. He is. And the Queensland kid's really good. Joel, one of the things that everything you do with the game, when you make a rule change or something, it has an effect. And it has an effect going forward into the future. One of the big things that came into rugby league that has dramatically affected the amount of halves we produce was the mini and mod football rules, which were dummy half and first receiver can't pass the football. Now, a few years ago, Bob Fulton went really hard. He said, you cannot have this. You know, like, you can't have a rule where your halfback and your dummy half, the two most crucial positions, can't run the football and take the ball to the line until they're under 13s.
Yeah.
And which brought in the rule with the bibs, is that you nominate your 9 and your 7, and they're the guys, they're allowed to be tackled without 2 passes. Now, I'm starting to think, I just had a look at all these, there's a number of really good young 7s and 6s that are just coming through now. Galvin's almost the first of them, then you got Wood and a few of these guys. I actually think it's the effect that Bozo did about, you know, basically adjusting the rules of mini-mod football. I think it'll start to, I'm really hoping anyway, praying that what we're going to see in the next decade is just a mile of playmakers coming through in the game, when people talk about, Joel, like they say, there's not enough players for expansion, right? I think there is. There's not enough playmakers for expansion.
Yeah.
Because you have a look at the difference a playmaker makes in a football side. They can take a football team, a great playmaker can take them from a bottom 4 team into the 8, almost overnight by coming into the side. Evidence of that is Adam Reynolds, is the perfect example. The more playmakers, top-tier playmakers we produce, the better the game is going to be.
I'll tell you what, Bronny, I think he's right. And New South Wales were behind Queensland in the bib sort of notion. And if you look at Galvin, as I said, he's running now for 150-plus metres a game. We never saw that. Ezra Mam is running for big numbers from half. I think Matty's 100% right.
All right, well, Matthew, we've got 3 texts coming. I want to know, explain the hat drill, Matthew. This might be for budding coaches. What's the hat drill in, because you've only got 2 minutes. 1 minute, sorry.
Really quick, I just, you throw out hats on the field, you set a defence line for the field, and you do a ruck with hats, and you just take a playmaker out, and you tell him, you know, basically, you talk about shapes, and you just watch how he's got the ability to skip defenders and create space and numerical advantages just by doing this certain hat drill. Hard to explain over the radio.
Probably could be. Probably could be. Yeah,
yes.
The hat drill.
Matthew, in a word, man of the match tomorrow night.
I'll keep it tight.
In a minute.
Dylan Edwards, 2 tries.
Ooh,
2 tries.
2
13
tries.
plus. All right, Matthew, go and get one of those egg sandwiches from 7-Eleven.
Woolworths.
Mate,
Woolworths.
exactly.
Yep.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. See you, boys.